Hi, this is Julie Murphy with Arizona Farm Bureau. It's Friday. It's 10 o'clock, and it's Talk to a Farmer, Talk to a Rancher. Now, I'm talking for the next 6 weeks to several of the team members of the Arizona Department of Agriculture. Some of them have farm backgrounds, or they have family members that have farm backgrounds. So it's not exactly the farmer-rancher typical, but it's stakeholders in the industry, and that's what's making this so special and so important. And I'm excited because as long as I've known this organization, this department, this agency, state agency, I still say, I'm not quite sure what you guys do. But today we have Robert Smook. He is the Assistant Director, correct?
That's Associate Director.
Associate Director for Animal Services Division.
Yep, correct.
So before we launch into that, Robert, it's so funny for 2 or 3 years we kept saying, we need to get together, we need to get together.
Probably 7, Julie.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I'm going on 7 years. Time flies when you're having fun.
And so you and I finally got to connect, and it's here on Talk to a Farmer Friday. Yeah. But give us a little bit of background on you before we drill down on what your division does.
Sure. Born and raised Arizona, native Arizonan. Family originally came out here from the Midwest decades ago. Kind of a new start, but a lot of my family in the Midwest still farm, still ranch. Small dairies, pig farms. They run cattle in the Dakotas. Got family in Nebraska, Iowa, Minnesota, and both Dakotas. So agriculture has always been near and dear to me. Spent plenty of summers back there. Very familiar with it. Been in government for 32 years. Sort of been dedicated to public service because I felt like on this side you need advocates for the public.
Right.
I've always operated where I've been is to be a steward of the taxpayer.
Awesome.
So I know that sounds like an oxymoron with government doesn't do that, but there's many of us that believe that way and operate that way. So 32 years, I've had 24 years of public affairs experience. I've had a lot of stops throughout my career. Such as I started out as acting in this role. Paul asked me to step in as acting, and actually have always had an interest. I think the Animal Services Divisions historically had a lot. The agency has challenges, right? You hear resourcing and staffing, and those things haven't changed. But what I've always tried to operate in other programs that have been put in to try to, and I'm not an I person. I look at the we, the team.
The we.
How can we turn something around?
Awesome.
And so that's always my approach, identifying skill sets, the right skill sets for what we're trying to do, what we're trying to turn around, and in light of back to the resource, being limited resources, you got to maximize that, and then you've got to think outside the box. So I've always challenged my team, think outside the box, how to process, resolve, and I know this is another thing it's probably an oxymoron in government is apply common sense.
Right.
So I try to do that in every aspect. Graduate from ASU, graduated in 97. Go Devils. Go Devils.
I have to say that because I'm surrounded by U of A's, but I love my Wildcats.
That's right. Same here. That's one of the things when I stepped into this role was how impressed I was with U of A and the work they do, critical work they do with the cooperative extension and with our farmers and producers. So that was extreme. And then it was like, what's going on with ASU? But they have a role, but it's not, it's different. It's different. It's different. Exactly. So came to this department 7 years ago, got a call. Hey, we want a public affairs person. And I jumped at it. It was awesome. It was that point in my career. I'm like, you know what? I want to get back into it.
That's when you were in that role when you first came over that you and I kept, because you're always sending me stuff. I'm always sending you stuff. We kept saying, we need to get together.
We got to get together. We got coffee, tea, something. Yeah. So now we're doing we're doing an interview. So I appreciate you having me.
Yeah.
And hopefully I can help people understand what exactly we do a lot. And I know you hear that a lot. We do a lot, but what is that?
What is that? The a lot. Well, landing, kind of staying a little bit here with your Midwest family. My mom's side of the family, they're from Iowa, and that just some really cool people from the Midwest and really solid roots. And so that's probably influenced your attitude of being a servant and one that takes care of the taxpayer, so to speak. So it's good to hear that. But I also want to ask you, what kind of philosophical framework do you feel having that touch point with agriculture in your family embedded in you?
Great question. You hear a lot of people, hard work, right?
Yeah.
But that is synonymous to
Yeah.
agriculture, to farming, to ranching.
It's a given.
It's a given. That connection with the land, but it's the passion, the love for what they're doing. We're feeding people, and the care and nurturing of animals so that you can feed people, growing, harvesting so that you can feed people,
Right.
and your livelihood's based on it.
Right.
That ingrained the hard work ethic. I know it was beat into me early age from my dad, my grandfather, grandfather, but that all stems from my family in the Midwest.
Right.
Now, I didn't pursue agriculture here. I went kind of different route. But it's always been near and dear to me. But that was ingrained in me a long time ago. And I understand it. I've worked summers in it, hot summers in it. And
it gets hot in North Dakota.
People don't realize that. Yeah, exactly. It's hot in Nebraska, it gets hot in South Dakota, it gets hot in Iowa. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that's a different type of humidity there. We don't, not the dry heat we have here. So it's been ingrained in me, and I've just applied that throughout my career as hard work. At the end of the day, you got to have a passion for what you're doing. So I credit that to
your family,
the family back in the Midwest. Absolutely.
That's so cool.
It's always been near and dear to me. Love agriculture, and that opportunity is like, you know what? Wow, there's a new opportunity.
Yeah. Especially to come into the animal division.
Yep.
So I'm going to actually read what you guys have on your website about the division that you're front and center with. So your division protects the public from contagious and infectious diseases in livestock, poultry, commercially raised fish. People don't realize that we even do fish here in Arizona. Meat, milk, and eggs. So, and you also do this by enforcing law concerning the movement, sale, importation, transport, slaughter, and theft of livestock. Still cattle rustlers out there, I guess. In addition, isn't that crazy? In addition, your division regulates food processing. This part I didn't really realize. Food processing and manufacturing facilities, and conducts substantial food safety and quality inspections of dairy, meat, egg products produced or stored in Arizona. So I guess what I want you to do for us, now that we've kind of regurgitated that, and that, by the way, anybody can go to the Arizona Department of Agriculture, just Google it, and you can see some of this information on their website. But drill down a little bit on some of these specifics within your animal services division.
Sure. So we can start out with our dairy program. We inspect all aspects of whether it's a farm or even at a pasteurization plant. We inspect pasteurization devices, all equipment associated to the safe processing of milk. So we have a safe milk supply. We sample and we test milk. We're actually in the process. We work with USDA with the bulk milk testing program that they rolled out. It's had some bumps, but we're doing that to continually ensure that we get a safe milk supply. Pasteurized milk is safe. We've got a safe milk supply. Our egg
doesn't. Every time we talk about pasteurization, I like to emphasize this because I know there's a lot of commentary going around. Well, you kill some of the nutrients in the heating. You do not. There's maybe one nutrient that doesn't have the same level of potency, but it's a nutrient dense product after pasteurization.
Absolutely.
I'm going to repeat that.
Yeah, I can't say better than you did. So no, it is we have a safe milk supply, and it's extremely nutrient dense.
Yeah. So
you're not losing anything. It's safe, and people need to understand that. So so that's our dairy. Egg, we obviously we do egg grading. That is probably one of the few government programs where you can actually increase the value of a commodity.
Cool. I didn't realize that.
So by egg grading, that significantly can increase. Now, in a time like this where we have shortages because of, which we'll get into, high path avian influenza, that's obviously changed the landscape in terms of supply, of eggs, and there's a shortage, obviously, to the impacts of AI, bird flu. So, but in that, we ensure in those facilities that we inspect daily that you know everything that there's a clean environment, that there's obviously care and handling of the eggs, labeling of the eggs. That's important. That's something that we also have oversight for. So yeah, so sell by dates, all sorts of things.
So you literally are identifying the grade, and whatever is the grade that influences the value of the egg.
Yep.
So cool. What is your staff? So there's a lot of going out and inspecting on farm, in facilities, in manufacturing plants. What do you?
So the size of ASD, we are about approximately 85 employees.
What do you wish you had?
So your viewers out there, I'm not a big proponent of growing government. If we do grow, you got to make a business case.
Sure.
And use that business case to those pain points of how do we appropriately grow. And there we have needs. I mean, I can go anywhere and talk to anyone. You need more brand inspector. I was out responding with the state vet's office, the few staff we have, on an AI event this week. And the lady that was assisting the premise owner, she goes, so what did you do before? I had a different role. I'm completely decked out in a hazmat Tyvek suit.
And when you say you're talking about the avian influenza.
Yes, I'm sorry, an avian influenza. It was a bird. It was a AI. That's what we call it around here. Bird flu outbreak.
Okay.
In a backyard flock.
And you had that whole hazmat.
I had a full Tyvek suit. I had a respirator, glasses, hood, booties, and we're in the middle of nowhere. We're in Pima, Arizona. It's not that it's nowhere. It's beautiful out there, but
it's out.
It's out.
When you compare it to Phoenix.
Talk to people. You just don't drive down the road and, it's a 30-minute drive, and everybody suits up, and you just, you've got to commence with depopulating a backyard flock.
Which is heartbreaking.
It's very heartbreaking. Very heartbreaking.
So this was a backyard flock. This is not one of your quote unquote industrial farms, as a lot of people like to. It was a backyard
flock.
Wow.
With adjacent ponds. So the area is the Clough Ponds area outside Safford. You have people fishing. You have some wildlife preserve areas. So naturally, when you have ponds in the middle of the desert, what comes, right?
Wildfowl. Yeah, the wild fowl. Say that fast 3 times, Julie.
Wildfowl, yeah. So this situation, and there's a whole host of people that have backyard flocks there. This wildfowl is the issue. They're susceptible to this, and the situation there were so many birds.
But still, you could classify. It was larger than maybe the backyard hen house that I might build if I had the energy to do that. 700 birds?
Easy.
It was still a lot smaller than some of our larger family farms.
Yeah, we
in
had
the egg business.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And we had so the gentleman used to show birds. So
okay.
We had exotic geese. We had your typical white geese. They were massive. I was like, is he feeding them dog food? I mean, they looked, the appearance, some looked healthy, but you could see signs already. And that's something to think about in backyard flocks, right? People want to focus on, that's only industrial ag, right? They're all condensed. They're all backyard. So actually my personal observation is what you see is.
Because you were boots on the ground.
We're boots on the ground. If they weren't in pens, so they're roaming. To me, if avian influenza, bird flu, has hit that premise, when animals are floating or kind of free ranging, people think, they're going to be fine. It just delays the mortality. So
the mortality?
Yeah, because poultry, like literally 24 hours,
will kill them.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, some people feel this is a conspiracy and the government is making them depopulate, but
I can tell you, it's firsthand. It's not. It's very alarming.
It's legitimate bird flu. So if one bird, whether that be a backyard flock or in a more large family farm barn, if one bird gets it, it's going to spread, and they can't fight it. Their immune system can't fight it, like even in cattle, because there's a few bovine that have got it too in a few dairies.
Yep.
So they just die, and then because you're seeing these birds suffer, is that one of the reasons why they depopulate?
We have to well, you want to stop the viral load.
Oh, okay.
So that is a significant thing. These animals are sick. They're expelling the virus. No different than you and I.
Right.
I got a cold and I just sneezed right here in front of you.
Yeah.
But it's just it's so bad on poultry. It's literally a 24-hour situation where it takes them. So we have to respond. We have to deal with that, with the depopulation. As hard as it is, we do it as humanely within means, our most humane means of doing that. We had turkeys on this property. They were smaller than these geese that we had. So
wow,
it was amazing. It was really heartbreaking because he had pheasants, just beautiful birds.
It had to crush him as the owner, especially if he was.
It was very. I'm sure. I can imagine. I didn't. Dr. Walker, our state veterinarian, worked directly with him and some other representatives with him. So we ensured that he was off-site, and through this process ensured that this was, every animal was treated humanely, every bird was treated humanely, and just an unfortunate deal, but it just shows you the devastation of this disease, and it's not a conspiracy. It's a real. It's been said in the news how many times since December 1st, we've had 31 million egg-laying hens plus have succumbed to this.
Yeah.
It's nothing to mess around with.
Go ahead.
No, it's nothing to mess around with. It's lethal for them.
I have another question. What's the relationship role between the USDA, because like for the Hickmans, which is, they're a family farm, but they're larger, I think they have to have a USDA inspector on site. So what's your animal services role in relation, because you're also in there grading the eggs at, identifying value. I mean, how is the roles of the two, a federal agency, the USDA, and a state agency, what's the relationship?
Well, we're just even with AI response, we're the boots on the ground too.
Oh, okay.
So we're the boots on the ground, and we kind of serve this purpose throughout programs, even throughout the division, where we're the boots on the ground for a particular federal agency. And I think locally people would rather deal with the state rather than the feds.
Yeah.
That's the honest truth. It's nothing against federal government, but it's ominous to people. So they would prefer that. But that relationship that's been built with the department in the work we do through our cooperative agreements with USDA per se, grading eggs, but even AI response. So when, the unfortunate incident that Hickman's faced, we're the boots on the ground too with USDA, because they don't have the people to respond to that. Sure. And there's critical things that need to be oversight to help that, to help Hickman's, whether it's Hickman's, Rose Acres, or any large egg producer. There is an indemnity program for them to help them recover from this. So we play a key role in that, ensuring that one, they get back up and running, but two, that it's done safely so that we don't have recurring events. And that does happen. This virus is unreal. And you've got wildfowl now that have developed immunity, such as mallards, that can spread it. So so think about it, if you got a little play pool in your backyard, and I got a pool at my house, and my wife one day said, "Oh, there's a couple of mallards in the pool," and I'm like, "Get them out of there," you know what I mean? So as cool as that is, it was a pair. That's not a good thing, It doesn't mean they have that, but
they could, and you wouldn't know, because they, like to your point, they've built up an immunity for it.
They're a carrier.
They're a vector.
They're a vector.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Robert, I knew I'd learn a lot talking to you, but
I'm still learning. I'm still learning. I learn a lot from all of my program people. They're training me. It's exciting. That's the exciting part is learning. And I've only scratched the surface. And so there's so much, we have the dairy program, egg program, MPI, meat inspection at our state facilities.
Right.
There's a lot we do in that. Our ante-mortem, post-mortem, we ensure the animal's been handled properly. We inspect it for prior to diseases, all the way through the process. And the idea is not to be the heavy hand, is we're like the guider to help that business prosper by selling their commodities.
So your 85 people are running all over the
They're
state
all over.
all the time.
I hear all the time. As I said it earlier, Rob, you got to get more brand inspectors, and we have 17 now. And, you know, when this agency was first formed in, I think, 1992, we had like 50, 60, 70. Just times have changed. And I don't dwell on the past. I have to look at what my resources now, and we got to think outside the box, and we got to, you know, look at process improvement. What are we doing here? Apply some common sense. Let's, you know, streamline something here, but also not at the sake of affecting a producer or a rancher or whatever by cutting corners either.
Right.
So yeah, we're stretched thin on the livestock side, but we get our inspections done. I mean, really do.
Awesome.
To the credit to the team, they get them done. You know, there's some focus on the sale barns that we need more help there, and I think we're trying to get that help. So
good. So for the uninitiated, and certainly for listeners that, you know, my urban listeners, viewers to this, so we might in a live like this, and Joel sometimes will raise his hand and say, Julie, somebody's asking a question. Are we good so far?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. And so then we can respond to some of their questions,
Okay.
but sometimes we only have a couple dozen. When we first launched this, because I wanted to start out with a bang, and so I had an influencer on, and he drew, because he's a social media influencer, something like 450 people. Did they all stay on the whole 30 minutes?
Right.
No, but and sometimes we have a pretty good crowd, but where most of the viewership comes from is after we post it to the Instagram, and we also share it on our website.
Okay.
So for the uninitiated, why for the rancher is the brand inspection so important?
There's two parts to our livestock program. You have range cattle, which is your branded cattle.
Right.
That is your license. That is your license. That your proof of your ownership. That's important for us to inspect, to ensure we're protecting that producer. That those are in fact his or her livestock. We do have our self-inspection. That also draws a lot of scrutiny, right? So it's viewed as an honor system. It's really I've heard everything. That's a license to steal, Rob. It's actually a health movement permit. That's what self-inspection is.
Okay.
It's a health movement permit. Your brand is your license. And the dynamics of the whole livestock industry has been changing vastly.
Yeah.
And I get a lot of, you know, the whole non-range. So less than 100 acres, that's the non-range, and they're using self-inspection. So there's a lot of scrutiny we're putting on that in terms of process improvement. One thing I did when I took over this job was looked at skill set, our self-inspection staff in my internal admin staff. That's the heart and soul. And, you know, there needed to be change there, because I need to find people that know the why, understand the why. I'm familiar with ag. It's near and dear to me, but we have to think about that and what we're doing internally here. They have to understand the why. So that took time, and I recruited and we found three really great ladies, unbelievable skill sets, experience, understand that. And one of them I still, USDA, to be mad at me, I stole from FSIS, was out at JBS, and lots of talent. And that's kind of set the tone. And I don't rest on my laurels by hearing, but the feedback from industry has been wonderful. Like,
excellent.
There's good momentum, and the feedback is they've noticed a difference in customer service. It's been elevated. They're getting their self-inspection books. And also we started going out and doing online self-inspection tutorials. We did one so far, and it was a hit.
Now, what does that mean?
So if you're on self-inspection, you're doing online. We went out to an industry group and did a laptop, had everything set up overhead, and we walked through how to fill out your online.
Okay.
And actually from that tutorial we did, where we just kind of question and answer, and this is how you need to do this, we got great feedback from industry, and we were to come back to the office, get with IT, and implement 4 important changes that everybody was like, oh my gosh. So
Made
we
improvements based
yeah,
on the
absolutely, by the feedback right there. And it was a huge hit.
Cool.
So we're looking, I think we want to get that opportunity out there and get into more of a cadence where we can offer that to every ag industry group that we have out there.
And some of this also, so this is part of, because it even said that on here that, you know, you still deal with theft. Well, you go and do these brand inspections and something that's not added up. That's not the only reason you're doing that, but that is one of the byproducts of it, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And,
okay.
And back to finding people to understand the why, because I hear it from industry, you know, the non-range people, or, you know, there's stuff going on. I agree there is. But by recruiting, and I look this way because they sit outside out there, by recruiting staff that know that why, we've been able to, I didn't need officers. Not that officers are extremely important. I only have seven certified officers. That's all I have.
Okay.
17 inspectors. We got a couple part-time, but it's really a team of 17. In that 17, 7 certified officers, certified officers, law enforcement officers. But inside staff are not officers, but because they recognize something's not right on the self-inspection, whether someone tried to use duplicate documents, we didn't have that a year and a half ago. We didn't have that kind of recognition. Wow. It's significant. It may not sound flashy to people out there. That was significant because I'm catching it in here.
Right.
Catching it in here, and I'm not tying up officers and then I can turn that over to our Office of Special Investigations. They can pursue it. It's amazing though. It's not all theft. Matter of fact, it's not as much theft as you would think it was. It's people that don't know. They need
what
education.
Is it if it's not?
I don't want to throw someone under the bus. So we had a dairy there was a couple of young kids that, you know, whatever, they wanted a job, their side hustle.
Oh, sure.
They're buying cold dairy steers, right? So then they would go sell them.
Oh.
And what happened? So the dairy was doing a good thing by trying to educate them. Hey, you got to do this to move that cow. You're gonna need, or those steers. You need to use self-inspection. That's the law. It's either that or you got to have an inspector come out and do this. Right. So they were trying to set them up, but inadvertently gave them their paperwork. This is how you do it. Oh. So now you've got certifications that are tied to the dairy that they're using. Oh. So
some of it might be
not like
innocent,
there's no criminal intent.
Right.
There was no criminal intent. And then it was a month ago we did find criminal intent.
Wow.
And so that was handled differently.
Yeah, and that's when you have the certified law.
Yep. We have an Office of Special Investigations. Yeah. It's funneled to them, and we do investigate cattle theft. People don't. And there are people out there believe we don't. We do.
You do.
Absolutely.
The other thing that we have to realize, it's easy. We go into the store, we buy our meat, we're happy, or we go to the dairy case. People have to realize that the movement of animals, that whole process basically has to have documentation or a paper trail, correct?
Paper trail.
So that the animals are protected, the people involved are protected. If there's criminal intent, it gets caught. I mean, as I'm talking to you, I'm realizing things that I never really thought of before. I mean, I knew some of the things you did, and growing up on a farm, understanding, Dad always had to get everything. We were crop people, but, you know, I think you even have to do it with your 4-H animals. So It's very, very important, and it's just striking me. So before we leave your overview that you've given us, very interesting, about the Animal Services Division, what's one story that you've always thought was fascinating since you've been over, or that even before you came into this department, that you like to share because maybe it's inspiring or it's interesting or it's funny? I mean,
this one's probably not funny. It's inspiring though.
Okay.
And it's recent. We got a letter from the executive director, Tyler Grandel with Arizona Nationals. And frankly, this past year was a success. And crediting our state veterinarian, Dr. Walker, he tackled this 3 years ago of trying to secure what we call USA Herds. It's a application platform to have electronic CVIs. So we're getting into the seasonal passes, right? Entry
And then
permits.
CVI, what does that mean?
Certified veterinarian inspection.
Okay.
Okay, so that's
Okay.
this interstate movement of animals, right?
Okay.
That's the health card, right? So
that says, hey, my cattle are good enough to go to Nevada.
Yep.
Okay.
Last year, so this letter was, I've got it sitting right on my desk. I actually was going to bring it, just kind of put it from the camera, but it's credit to Dr. Walker. It's credit to when Paul came on board. Paul seen that and immediately recognized, oh my gosh, I could tell you from even before I took over, I was involved and did what I could to help support Dr. Walker in getting this. But this letter speaks volumes to the success of implementing USA Herds. And government gets charged. These IT companies will come in, oh, you need 10 million to redo your licensing. This was so minuscule and subscription based. And the beautiful part about it is through USDA, 20 plus states use it.
Oh, wow.
So there are other modules that they offer that we can obtain for free because we're signed up for that subscription base. But back to the letter, a year previous, the Nationals was a complete mess.
Okay.
And that goes back to not having the staff that understand the why. That's one critical part. But the USA Herds combining with having the right staff, we had literally 4 illegal entries out of 28 states that participated.
Wow.
730 animals that moved. We had 4 illegal entries. I don't even want to say what it was the year pre, but it was a mess. It was a mess.
Wow.
A lot of people were very down on us, as they should have been, but we corrected it. And to me, it's like that made my month. It actually hit, Tyler's letter made my month in credit to Dr. Walker and really a team, but he spearheaded it. And
his letter was a big thank you to you guys for fixing it. And part of it, most of it was because of that platform that you can now use. Right. Name it again.
USA Herds.
USA Herds. And
streamlined.
It allows streamlined.
Electronic. I know it sounds, most people go, well, everybody can get a digital form.
Yeah.
If people knew the mounds of paperwork that we had to sift through.
To represent all the animals that were coming in.
On a monthly basis. Yeah. Thousands. Yeah. I had staff drowning in it. And that impacted our customer service on self-inspection, livestock inspection, because of that.
Wow. So that is huge.
Yep.
What people don't realize for the uninitiated, if you're not an FFA or 4-H or any of the other reasons why you show livestock, to your point, repeat those numbers again. How many states participate in Arizona Nationals? Arizona Nationals is one of the big ones, right?
28 states this past year.
28 states, and how many animals go
730 animals.
730 animals. So they all have to be tracked because they're an animal that's coming from another. Well, not all of them, but a good chunk of them are coming
absolutely.
From those 28 states.
Bring a horse, you got to have a Coggins test.
Oh, really? Everything. And
now people get around that, but
they're supposed to do it.
Yeah, you do, and that's to protect everybody. That's not just because government wants it. That's to protect everybody.
Yeah, yeah, because it's kind of like when we come together in a gathering, and I'm saying all this out loud so I get it in my head, help my audio. When we come together in a gathering, if somebody's coming with a cold and they're a good vector, there's going to be some other people from that gathering that get sick.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And so you've got all these animals from all over. So that's interesting. Talk about, what do you consider the most challenging aspect of what you're now in charge of? Whether that be just the management of making your team, I got a vibe even before it started this, is asking the why. I get a vibe that you're really committed to the team and hearing from them and them being engaged with your client base, basically, which is our farmers and ranchers and then the public in general, because you exist to make sure I get good food in the grocery store. So what to you is your biggest challenge?
We're so diverse in the issues that we do. But it all comes back to, right, public animal health, protection, surveillance, food safety. So all that comes home to root right there. I think the biggest challenge is just still balancing out our resource, and we really I'm an impatient person. So I've got my faults, plenty of them. One of them is I struggle with patience. So I'm a driver. I'm a self-driver.
I'll
We are,
confess to.
right? So we do that, right? But I feel like I'm a very responsive manager. I listen, I hear, but I also listen to our customers. And it's just balancing out the resource. That's probably the ongoing struggle. But we can build on that and continue to improve and process improvement. And that's really just taking the time and really digging into the processes we're doing. And a lot of them, it could be as simple as just eliminating steps in something. And it's not flashy, right? To people, but they make a difference. I call it, at some point, people start recognizing tangible difference. Like, oh my gosh, well, the feedback we've got so far is I was committed to improving customer service first and foremost. And through that, I know there's people that love our self-inspection or our self-inspection books. And then we got a tangent of people online. You got to use technology online. Well, out in rural Arizona, we don't have the broadband strength out there. So I get that I get pulled in two directions, but I think there's a happy medium in trying to help our customer base with both. And education is how we can help uptick online as more people get Starlink. And I've gone to industry group meetings at Middle Arivaca. It was great. And matter of fact, that's where we did our online tutorial there. They had Starlink. It was awesome. I'll be honest, director knows too. That was better than the Wi-Fi we got in this building.
Really?
That was how impressive it was. So
you need to give Elon a call.
I'm probably waiting in line, but sure. I'd leave him a message, and say thank you for that. But I think as that's enough, hopefully becoming more of an affordable option to ranchers and growers out in rural Arizona, because it's not Maricopa's the capital, right? It's all of Arizona.
Right.
And but back to that is just that happy medium, maximizing our resources without breaking my people, but also still providing a service to our customers,
right?
That
or breaking the bank.
There's
expensive. Always the people resource and
expensive.
Guess what?
Yep.
I mean, you're a state agency. It's not like you can increase profits in one division of the business. It doesn't work like that. And then you can use that to improve.
Right.
So you came from public affairs, right?
Yes, I did.
What skill sets I'm sure there's a lot of them, but what skill sets do you feel like were easy to transplant to?
Well, transcended easily over for me to this, and honestly having experience being put in other programs through my career to kind of turn them around.
Yeah.
But relationship building. Relationship building is everything.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I was excited here. I knew, heck, I go back to Jim Clinker.
Oh yeah.
Back to then when I did a
first boss at Arizona Farm.
There you go. Yeah. My first, he trained me.
Oh, wow.
And he did some training on me,
how fun.
But when I was with the Chamber of Commerce and Industry for 2 years, and that's where I got to my first kind of dive in with working with the Farm Bureau, working with Jim Clinker.
Cool.
So the relationship building was a key, but a big one is being able to quickly jump from issue to issue, the diversity of the issues.
Pivot immediately.
Pivot instantly. And I may not, at this point, I'm not that deep in the weeds, but enough to, there's some areas where I'm heavy, you want to talk AI, I could talk avian influenza till you're blue in the face. Just because that's so recent. Right. It's in the news. It's on everybody's concern. People don't want to spend $10.99, $12.99 for a dozen eggs. So that's first and foremost. So I'm really,
that's how you've been able to.
Yeah. So pivoting from issues to issues has been a huge asset in this role.
And it's funny so you kept saying AI when we first were talking, and I wanted to make sure we identified it because there's also artificial insemination.
My apologies. Yeah, or artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
Right?
So we have a lot of,
that's what we call it around here real quick, but it's highly pathogenic avian influenza.
Okay.
Or if you want to call it it's bird flu.
That's what I've been saying lately.
Yeah.
Tell us, you told us one rewarding story coming from your division, but how about something that highlights the valuable work team, like, because you really stress the team environment where everybody came together to try to resolve this problem or whatever it was, just kind of highlighting that team aspect of it.
Well, I'll give you a recent example. I mean, I operate nothing's below me. You want a cup of coffee, I'm going to get you a cup of coffee, right?
That's an awesome philosophy. I want a cup of coffee.
You want a cup? I'm going to go get both of you a cup. I'll go get it ordered. So, and I would. So, as the associate director, I don't have the administrative staff, and that's just a reality. I'm not going to wear a badge of complaining on my shoulder, but my state vet's office is not heavily staffed. Nowhere in this division is it heavily staffed. Probably our inspection side, you know, we have our bodies, but the state's vet's office is basically 3.5 people, and we had to respond to an AI event that I mentioned earlier.
Right.
So I did that. I wore a Tyvek suit, was getting hung up like an ornament in mesquite trees, trying to respond to a backyard flock that was significant in size. You could almost, if they were all poultry, you could say they were a producer almost, you know?
Wow.
So we're talking 700 plus birds. So that a team effort, you know, it was rewarding while we're beat, tired, drained. We spent Monday was a holiday. So rest of the state government was off except the legislature and our legislative liaison person, she was working. I was working with the state vets team. We were out, we did probably 19 hours on that property.
Wow.
If you add windshield time driving out there. But it was significant work. It was intense.
And people came together like yourself that you might not have normally done that. And that's a sobering story, and I don't mean to laugh at that, but when you said I was up in a hazmat.
We can picture, right?
I can picture you as an ornament. As an ornament in a mesquite tree.
Right. Oh, some of my friends sent me some interesting, you know, I'd say pick-me-up gifts and memes.
Oh, I love it.
Because they knew what I was doing.
Yeah.
So I had some, you know, some lighthearted things to kind of pick up my, you know, my spirit. Yeah, because
it was kind of sobering.
Yeah, it is sobering. It was sobering. It is
sometimes
sobering.
Even the tough things, if you're not able to laugh at yourself or something about it, then all you're going to do, you got to cope. All you're going to do is cry. Or it's going to eat you alive,
you know? But we had to respond to protect that premise owner and do everything we could to protect everybody around them that has other and there's a lot of backyard flocks in this area. And you got wild birds coming and going in ponds. We don't have lakes all over the state, so you get that concentration. Yeah.
So you're giving me a vibe that a backyard flock of chickens that I may be raising for eggs is just as vulnerable.
Absolutely.
And that, because I've also felt, well, if they're roaming and they're free, they're building their immune system, they're not in such a concentrate, you're saying that they can potentially be just as susceptible.
Absolutely, just as susceptible.
Yeah. Wow.
Birds, I mean, wild birds, anything. I mean, we have geese fly over all the time. We have mallards. We have, you know, all sorts of types of wild birds, right?
Yeah.
They can be carriers. They can have it. They can, you know, vectors. It's, you know, as you said,
it's very spreadable. Is your point?
Yep.
Do you have any? I know I'm asking you a question that's probably making you look into your crystal ball. Mine is broken, so I don't try to predict anything. But are you hopeful about this? I mean, it sounds like it's going to cycle through every year, just like having the flu or COVID or just a mean old cold.
It's endemic. I was talking to Dr. Walker even this morning that it's endemic. So
to certainly the wild bird flocks, but what about domesticated animals that we're using for food production?
I'm positive there's, you know, a solution forthcoming.
Okay.
There's vaccinating. I know that makes some people nervous, but we can't. This has gone on too long, and it's drastically impacting our food supply.
Yeah.
And we got to get that turned around. And I'm positively optimistic. Not 6 months, but I think I'm hopeful, and what we're hearing early signs out of this administration is this is a primary focus of attacking it. So
Oh, way cool.
that is good to hear.
Yeah.
Those signals are coming out strong now, hopefully, but I'd still say we're probably 10 months to a year before we really have an idea. But it's who wants our hot weather to get here, right? This is why we live in Arizona. It's so beautiful, but this is the perfect environment for it. Because right, it's during flu season. It is a flu.
So when it warms up, hopefully it kind of makes
100-degree plus, and it falls off. It disappears.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Well, and everybody I talk to, I consider you an expert just because you're the boots on the ground, hazmat suit, stuck in a mesquite tree. No. But they say just to even repopulate a barn. Now, granted, I've heard 4 to 6 months for a young chick to become a productive laying hen. 4 to 6 months, I think, is but that doesn't factor in all the other things they got to do to get the barn ready. And just sometimes it can be anywhere from a year to 18 months.
Yep.
So if
Absolutely.
an entire barn was depopulated because of an infestation, basically, then that's the things that we got to look at. These high egg prices are not going to go away overnight.
No.
Wow. Well, okay. On that note, what are some of the improvements that are the potential improvements you see in the Animal Services Division?
Okay. Well, my focus, and they know I'm going to stand on the gas. We're going to continue to improve our customer service.
Okay.
We're standing up a dispatch for livestock. We lost our dispatch through ADOT.
Now, what does that mean?
Dispatch, so calls for service. So someone needs an inspection. I've got stray animals. Oh, somebody has an animal. There's this livestock's being, mistreated, and so animal cruelty calls, but mainly calls for service for inspection, proof of ownership, sale, all that stuff will be handled where you're actually talking to live people Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. That's the best I can do right now. We'd like to expand that beyond because ADOT would provide that service, after hours. We just don't have that. We don't have the funding resource. So we're going to stand this up. At one time that existed here, and then ADOT took it over. It's just things change, right? So their business model changed. So when I stepped into this role as acting, I kind of got the trick bag was like, I didn't know quite everything that was in it, okay, so we got some challenges.
Right.
I lost our dispatch, and so that was handed to me, and so we are in the process of hiring full-time and a part-time that will handle the call volume, especially in the summertime when you get a lot of the animal welfare calls, but mainly during shipping season, so they can talk to a live body, not be kicked back. And I think your viewers, oh my gosh, I don't talk to a voicemail that kicks me back. That's coming to an end. Yeah, we will have live bodies to talk to. And if you do get voicemail, you're not going to get kicked off. You're going to have somebody that will respond back to you, get that request filled for the producer or rancher. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that's a big focus. Customer service. We're going to continue to drive the process improvement. We're going to dive into probably simplifying forms, get more people online for self-inspection, and hopefully we get some help at the cell barns where I can get a couple of bodies. If it's 4 bodies at the cell barns, there'll be inspectors with their primacy of the cell barns doing inspections there, but they'll also do the region coverage too. So we'll have even more coverage responsibilities in helping producers and ranchers.
Do inspectors ever show up unannounced?
Yeah, we do. So in our MPI, meat and poultry, we do unannounced inspections.
Okay.
But for livestock, no. We just simply don't have that kind of. And honestly, I would rather for that program, a very transparent. We need that constant communication. We shouldn't be, now in the event of an investigation, that's a whole different process.
That's true.
That's a whole different process. But as our normal calls for service, ownership, inspection from any kind of movement, slaughter, that's a communicated event that, well communicated that we're doing our part to communicate with the producer rancher to conduct those activities. But an inspection thing, an investigation, that's a whole different other deal.
Last question.
Yeah.
You've got, this platform, Instagram Live, and like I said, we're going to save this, but imagine if you were getting up on stage and you had all of the Arizona consumers in front of you. As it sounds like you guys are doing an amazing job with your, you're really working to improve your customer service, certainly to your farmers and ranchers. But let's imagine you have that audience of the average Arizona family. What are you going to say to them about what you do, why it's important?
We help our customers, our producers, our ranchers, our growers, ensure that they all have a safe food supply, safe milk to drink, pasteurized milk. That we ensure that our overview and surveillance is we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, so that one, our customers can conduct commerce, but that the public has safe food supply, animals are protected, and protecting against zoonotic diseases that could impact them. We respond to those, TB testing, brucellosis, you name it. So
Wow.
yeah, that's not just the food safety part, protection for consumers, but also the animals disease side.
Wow. Robert, it strikes me that you're end to end managing the animal end of the food supply chain and really trying to make a touch point of safe, healthy, nutrient dense food for all of us. I feel, now that I understand your vision better, I feel a little bit more like I'm going to be more excited when I go into the grocery store, because I know you guys are doing your job.
It's what we're supposed to be doing. Yep, absolutely.
Joel, any questions from anybody? Any comments? We're good. Well, for everyone that joined us live and for those that will watch it later, thank you for hanging out with us. We're doing a 6, possibly 8-part series here at the Arizona Department of Agriculture. We might get to go to the weights and measurements, and I hear that's in the lab.
Yeah, so the metrology lab is up in Glendale. It's 43rd Avenue and Olive. Yeah.
So I'm hoping we get to do that, because that might be kind of fun. Boots on the ground, see what they do with their all their instrumentation. I used to really love science in 7th and 8th grade.
It's really cool stuff what they do up there.
That's so cool. Okay, so the idea is for us to learn as much as we can about the Arizona Department of Agriculture. It's a touch point for all of us, because we all know that food is important, obviously. That goes without really being stated. But it also lets us see the breadth and depth of the amazing Arizona agriculture that we do here in our little desert state, a nearly $31 billion industry. So stay tuned, stay with us, and blessings to everyone. Thank you.